Hey guys! So my ISU novel that I chose is called Room, and it's by Emma Donoghue. It's a novel that was published in 2010. So the book is told from the perspective of Jack, who's 5 years old. He's the protagonist and the narrator, and he lives with his mother in Room. As the book progresses through a lot of dramatic irony and a lot of great dialogue, we start to learn more about Jack and his mom, who was actually kidnapped 7 years prior by Jack's father, aka Old Nick. When Jack's mom finds out that Old Nick has been laid off from his job for the past 6 months, she starts to fear the worst, especially once their power gets cut off. So they devise a plan to escape. Although there's too many rhetorical devices within this novel to name, which is part of the reason why it's so great, um, one of the things that really struck me was the author's use of imagery, for example, when describing Room itself. Jack's mother says, "Actually, it was a garden shed to begin with, just a basic 12 by 12 vinyl-coated steel. But he added a soundproof skylight and lots of insulating foam inside the walls, plus a layer of sheet lead because lead kills sound. Oh, and a security door with a code. He boasts about what a neat job he made of it." So obviously the imagery like this that exists within the novel is super effective because it helps reveal more, obviously, about the conditions that Jack and his mother are living in, as well as painting a sort of picture for the reader and making it more of an interesting read. So like I said before, Jack himself is the source of a lot of metafiction and a lot of dramatic irony within the book. However, one thing I wanted to touch upon was his use of personification. He calls a lot of things by their names, however, he refers to them with proper names, if that makes sense. So, like, bed is capital B, bed, and room is capital R, room, as if they're actually people rather than surroundings, which is a really interesting way I found of portraying Jack's relationship to his surroundings and his environment. One example of some dramatic irony and some euphemism that's included in the novel is when Jack describes what happens between Old Nick and his mom during the night, saying, "When Old Nick creaks bed, I listen and count fives on my fingers. Tonight, it's 217 creaks. I always have to count till he makes that gaspy sound and stops. I don't know what would happen if I didn't count, because I always do." Now, for us, we obviously know what this is insinuating. However, Jack's innocence allows the reader to have to think a bit deeper because everything isn't on the surface. There's a lot of inferencing that has to come with this novel, a lot of assumptions that have to be made because Jack obviously doesn't say, "Hey, my mom got kidnapped. Hey, my mom got raped and had me." So it makes a really big difference, and it makes the book a little bit more fun to read, I found too. Now, although I don't want to give too much away, I do want to say that the way that Jack and his mom do handle the trauma, and seeing a lot of those really, really heavy subjects and trauma dealt with from such a simple perspective and such a simple view on life, is a really unique way of addressing a lot of really important themes like the innocence of childhood, the difficulty of dealing with addiction, the struggle of living with mental illness, and it makes the book really powerful in a number of ways. So one of the really interesting things about this book is the diction that Emma Donoghue chose to use. Now, since Jack, our narrator, is only 5 years old, she uses a very low and simple diction, and this helps to portray some of Jack's innocence. And this is really interesting because in a lot of other novels about kidnapping, we learn about things like rape and depression, mental illness that comes along, such as Stockholm Syndrome. However, this is really different because the innocence that Jack has brings a really new perspective to a lot of the trauma and a lot of the horrible things that happen in this novel, making it a really unique read. And although, like I mentioned, Jack's perspective does give the book a little bit more of a unique edge to it, it also affects the book a little bit differently because it includes a lot of metafiction because of Jack. He's a little bit of an unreliable narrator because he doesn't understand a lot of the nuances of social life and life in general. Now, Jack and his mom, although they're very close since they've been the only two people they've really had for the past 5 years, still have their differences, which are indicated in the book through the use of dichotomy, which we learned about in class this year. the dichotomy is actually presented through the two perspectives of the main characters. Now, outside of Room, Jack isn't happy. He wants to go back. However, obviously, his mother, having this be her normal life, is thrilled. And I think so because of this, Jack's difference in opinion between him and his mother on the way that they view the world creates a really strong dichotomy that addresses something that a lot of books on kidnapping actually don't normally touch upon, which is the great difficulty of adjusting back to normal life after such a trauma when you have a child, which is a really unique perspective that I find a lot of books like this don't really address. So basically, in conclusion, Room is a really great, action-packed, adventurous read full of rhetorical devices and really heavy themes that, provided through the lens of a 5-year-old, give it a really unique perspective unlike any other, which is honestly why I believe Room should be considered a classic and why I believe everybody should read it.